What's up, guys? It's your boy KIDSTATIIC. Hope you guys are having a good day. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Today, we're going to be reacting to How Strong is Thragg, and I'm super excited to get out all into this Viltrumite war. Um, as we know, Invincible recently ended, and boy, did it end on a bang. All right. And I'm ready for the new season, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Let's react. Let's get into it.
In the Invincible universe, there are all sorts of different planets and powerful species, but at the pinnacle of them all lies the Viltrumites. These are a highly advanced alien race of extremely powerful humanoids who reside on planet Viltrum. They only seek to expand their universal empire by conquering every single planet in the universe. They are known and feared across the galaxy as merciless monsters, blessed with unstoppable power and advanced technology. One Viltrum is usually enough to conquer an entire planet alone. Strength, honor, and glory are everything to these people, but there's one who stands head and shoulders above the rest. One with so much power that all others are no more than ants to him. This Viltrumite is Grand Regent Thragg, and in this video, I intend to give you all a pretty good understanding of how powerful this Viltrumite is in the context of the story. If you enjoyed content such as this, let me know by leaving a like and subscribe, as this is something completely new for the channel. And with that said, let's get into it.
For you, it's more than a bank transaction. It's landing your first fundraise. Or maybe it's payroll for your crew.
This is actually going to be really
To
good.
begin, I think I should give a little bit of context when it comes to the character of Thragg in Invincible. This man is a prodigy amongst prodigies. He was trained in every single form of combat since the moment he was born, and he was bred with the sole purpose of being the ultimate Viltrumite warrior. He's basically Broly if the same race accepted him instead of exiling him. After the Viltrumite Civil War, he was the one to come out on top and be crowned as Grand Regent of Viltrum. The Scourge virus would come soon after this and wipe out the pure-blooded Viltrumite population to 50. At this moment, Thragg would further resolve himself to conquer all of the galaxy, and he would see to this by any means necessary. After Mark would defeat Conquest, one of the more powerful Viltrumites who was supposed to take Mark's place in conquering Earth, he decided that it's time to pull up himself. From there on, Thragg becomes nothing short of an evil genius menace that gives Mark and friends complete hell every time he appears. And with that established, let's get into all of his stats and abilities. To begin with his physical strength, the man is so powerful that it's comical in the context of the series. Soon after overcoming the undefeated Conquest, Mark tries his luck against Thragg, who simply sends Mark flying through space with a swipe of his hand. Later on in that same fight, Thragg is able to grab both Nolan and Mark at the same time by the neck, brutalize them, and then call off the battle as he did not want to eliminate any more Viltrumites, basically giving them mercy because he's so confident in his strength and their inability to do anything about him. As I go over Thragg's feats to only reinforce how much of a grip he has on the series, you're going to begin to notice how extremely similar he is to Broly from the movies, and how his strength is portrayed and how he completely dominates his opponents. We see that as the series continues, Thragg manhandling our boy Mark becomes a pretty normal thing. Although it's kind of a joke that Mark gets mollywopped a lot in Invincible, you also have to remember that Mark continuously grows in strength at a very fast rate in this series, especially starting from the battle with Conquest. And even despite all of Mark's growth, it really never makes a difference when it comes to Thragg. Of course, the best display of Thragg's strength comes from his battle against Battle Beast. I do think this fight is more of a showcase for Battle Beast himself, as it finally shows the viewer what he's truly capable of, whereas we already know that Thragg is a monster of monsters. But I think the most important piece of information we get out of this fight is the fact that nobody interrupts it, because they know that their interference may be detrimental to the outcome of the fight, as they were all relying on Battle Beast to be the one to take down Thragg. Moments like these are usually made to convey that these two characters are on a level of their own, and anybody else is just an ant in their way. Thragg's physical strength is obviously at the peak of the verse. I mean, even in the final saga of the series, we see Dude throw his own children at Mark as projectiles to hurt him, and they end up exploding on impact and dying from these throws. It's crazy. Lastly, Mark alongside two other Viltrumites were able to completely destroy planet Viltrum. Keep in mind that this event is supposed to take place soon after Season 3's conclusion. Not only this, but we see Mark massively restrain himself throughout most of the series, yet majority of his battles result in him destroying tons of cities and buildings and all that jazz. And with these being feats from season 3 and 4, where Mark is nowhere close to his peak at the end of the series, Thragg should be sitting far, far above this mark, and he should be able to replicate these feats 10 times over if he desired. Thragg can also match Battle Beast blow for blow. This is the same guy that was ripping apart Ragnars with ease. These Ragnars are mindless beasts that the average Viltrumite are told to avoid, and more than likely cannot beat. I find the best way to describe Thragg's strength is to describe him in this light. What Mark was to Omni-Man in their first battle of the series is what Omni-Man, a very above average Viltrumite, and every other Viltrumite, is to Thragg, at least up until the 500-year time skip. Moving on to the speed of this walking calamity, he doesn't really have that many outstanding speed feats as all the Viltrumites in Invincible.
I think seeing Thragg in the anime is actually going to be really good, and we're going to see a different rendition, not too different rendition of his character, but I think being able to actually see all this in animation will put him in a different light. And they did Conquest really well. That's one thing I will give to the writers over there. They pretty much handle every character well, and I know they're going to handle Thragg well, and his whole arc will be sick. I cannot wait for the Viltrumite War to start.
Seem to be extremely fast, but they're there. Coming back to the previously mentioned first confrontation between Thragg, Mark, and Omni-Man, we see that Thragg was more than capable of catching Mark, who was trying to flee while Nolan was holding Thragg off. Then as Nolan would catch up to the two, Thragg would be able to instantly react to Nolan's appearance and impale him with his hand. This one movement here, displaying his insane reaction and travel speed all in one. Most impressively, Thragg is able to easily dodge Space Racer's Infinity Blast. This is a character who was able to easily track and follow a Viltrumite who flew from one solar system to another. This is certainly an above the speed of light feat, judging from the fact that this seemed to be a pretty fast event in the series. Thragg and Space Racer would have a confrontation later, and we would see that in their battle, Thragg was able to easily evade and catch up to Space Racer while being on a non-linear path of movement in order to dodge his attacks. This indicates that he's more than likely up there in speed. Space Racer himself even confirms that he cannot keep up with the speed of Battle Beast in Thragg's battle anyway. When it comes to the speed of Thragg, people can throw around calcs all day, but he's easily above the speed of light, and you can even say that he's massively beyond the speed of light due to this one feat here. When Mark and Nolan would first conclude their battle on Earth, it would end with Nolan retreating and leaving to the Virgo supercluster galaxy, which is where that planet with those bug people were. We don't know the exact distance between this galaxy and Earth's in the Invincible universe, so we'll just use the closest galaxy we have to our own in the real world to make a lowball guess. This being the Canis Major Dwarf Galaxy, that is 25,000 light years away from our own galaxy, the Milky Way. For those who don't know, light years are the amount of years it would take for light to reach a certain distance, and it took Nolan a week to reach this planet. Now keep in mind, we were just guessing with a low ball. This Virgo supercluster galaxy mentioned in the Invincible data books could be much farther from the Milky Way than expected, as this is a fictional series. Coming back to Thragg, we see that he is more than able to blitz and essentially fight this same guy in Invincible at the same time. Now we only have Thragg in the comics, and it's pretty rare for characters to move at massively faster than light speeds in the show, but this is just me sharing my calculations and where I think Thragg is at in terms of speed. Of course, when it comes to the durability of Thragg, it matches up to his speed and strength. But I think the author was just using Thragg's durability to flex how strong he was compared to everybody, because the majority of the attacks he takes in the series, he's no-selling them. For example, a decently powerful character named Dinosaurus would rip his own hands off after trying to hurt Thragg. Then he tried to chomp him, but all of his teeth shattered on Thragg's skin. Even Nolan, Omni-Man himself, would crush his own hand trying to punch Thragg in the head. Then Mark would tackle him just for Thragg to brush him aside as if he were an ant. We don't really see Thragg take much damage from the heroes through the entire series unless he allows it, at least up until the penultimate arc of the story, where Mark literally has to dive Thragg into a sun in order to burn him alive as they battle. And with the support of other characters, Mark manages to outlast Thragg in the sun, but barely. The fact that this is what was required for Thragg to be defeated is a testament of his strength. Even when battling against his equal Battle Beast, the two were able to withstand multiple fatal blows from one another in a battle that lasted multiple days. As previously mentioned, Thragg is tussling with characters who have shown the ability to destroy planets with their strength alone, and usually overpowering them with ease. I'm pretty sure that his durability is at least on the planet level as well. It's just pretty hard to tell as it was rare for Thragg to be hurt by anybody in the first place. But the best we can do is see what far weaker characters have been able to withstand and then just apply it to Thragg. On top of all of this, remember that Viltrumites have the ability to withstand tons of punishment and continue fighting despite the circumstances. Now apply this to Thragg, who's essentially a superhuman amongst the Viltrumites. We would eventually see the limits of what Thragg can withstand, as after his battle against Battle Beast, he would pass out, and it would be implied that he more than likely wouldn't have survived this encounter had he not been rescued by the Thraxans. Now, when it comes to his intelligence, Thragg being thousands of years old and the leader of a super alien race that had conquered majority of the galaxy and provided majority of the planets with super advanced technology even compared to Earth, I think it goes without saying that Thragg is a very intelligent person. But we see throughout the story that Thragg is one of those characters who's so intelligent that he can even make a mockery of the story itself at times. He always has some sort of plan no matter how bad things are, and this plan tends to go in his way. For example, when he would be exiled by Nolan and lose his entire army due to Nolan's heritage as the rightful heir to the throne being revealed, the first thing he'd do is go find the Thraxans, make a ton of hybrids like Oliver, just so he'd be able to create his army of mini Thraggs ASAP, as he knows that they age pretty fast. Then
That is actually crazy. I'm not gonna lie. That is crazy that he did that. That's petty. That's petty. And how in the hell? Like, how do you? I don't even want to. Like, how do you sleep with that many? Uh, okay.
prepare himself for a war against the coalition after he lost all of his army. His intelligence also seems to be the reason he came out on top against Battle Beast, because we see that he took advantage of Battle Beast's self-inflicted wound at the very end of their battle, as he has some stuff wrapped around his hand. I have to be a little safe for YouTube. This also shows that he will do anything to win. He's no robot or Angstrom Levy, but just know that when Thragg's got to move tact, he certainly will. Moving past the foundational stats of the character that display his dominance over the majority of the story, I just want to point out a couple of extra abilities and ridiculous things he's done. For example, Thragg, when entering his final battle, would walk out with 2 Ragnars on leashes and use them as weapons. The way he did this was by swinging them toward his opponents so they would maul anybody that got close enough, and it was actually working. You can see that he actually caught bodies with this nonsense. And just to remind you, these Ragnar were so dangerous that the Viltrumite Empire wanted nothing to do with them, and this guy has them on leashes. You can really tell that the author was just having fun writing this character back then. Thragg also has an indomitable will. He's possibly the only character I've seen compare to Yuji Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen when it comes to this. Literally nothing but death can stop the man from achieving his goal. Even being stuck in the sun for a prolonged period of time wasn't going to stop him. Thragg is a character who's only shown a brief.
That's what I'm saying. Thragg is one of those characters with like determination. Like he's gonna get it done. That's what I was thinking. Like what can really stop this guy? I think once we actually get him on the anime and we start kickstarting the Viltrumite War arc off, I think that's gonna be really good, man. And there's so much potential for Thragg that they can do. And just when you thought Conquest was bad, we're gonna get to see this guy.
Brief yet undeniable run of absolute dominance since his introduction in the late story of Invincible. I'm going to briefly go over all of his battles in the series to reinforce this. Thragg makes his first appearance in one of many fights against Mark and the Heroes in Space. He manages to destroy Oliver, Mark, Nolan, Battle Beast, and Thetis all in sequence. Then goes on to spare everybody but Thetis, as he wants all Viltrumites to be a part of the Empire, enemy or not. Soon after this, Thragg comes to offer Mark a truce. This moment includes Mark socking Thragg in the chin, to which Thragg just eats the hit and tells Mark it's useless, you can't do anything to me, just stop. Remember, this is the same Mark who had defeated Conquest, one of history's most powerful Viltrumites. Thragg's next battle in the timeline has him fighting the previously mentioned Dinosaurus, and where Dinosaurus does everything possible to hurt the Viltrumite, but only hurts himself. Then soon after this, Thragg finds Nolan enjoying time with his wife and begins to beat him down. This is because he had recently found out about Nolan's heritage as the ruler of the Viltrum Empire, and he wanted to get rid of Nolan before anybody else would find out. Nolan doesn't fight here at all, as he's trying to be peaceful. In any ways, other Viltrumites do intervene and they find out about Nolan's heritage, causing them to jump Thragg and beat him down. Thragg wasn't really fighting back against the other Viltrumites.
Yo, that is crazy. That is crazy. So Nolan, through DNA, his heritage at least, ends up being the rightful leaders. Thragg tries to take him out before anybody finds out, but then the other Viltrumites end up finding out anyway. He gets his ass
Either.
beat.
It's a bit of a nothing burger event when it comes to gauging his strength, but I've been on YouTube for a while.
The Viltrumites kind of give me like Mandalorian-ish cult. Just values and beliefs. That's the kind of vibes I get.
Now, and I know people are going to be mad and upset that I didn't mention this. After all the Viltrumites beat down Thragg, Nolan exiles him and he goes on to conquer the Thraxian planet, making a bunch of children there. But before this happens, he comes across Battle Beast, who was tasked with the elimination of Thragg himself, and this results in them engaging in the ultimate battle between two unstoppable titans. But they're interrupted by a pack of the most feral and powerful specimen in the universe, the Ragnar. One of them really damages Thragg, and this causes Battle Beast to panic as he wanted nothing to interrupt this battle, and they make a truce to quickly dispatch the creatures. Once completed, Battle Beast does some damage to himself to even the odds once more, and the two engage in their battle. This battle spans days, is a heavily destructive back and forth that puts the planet in jeopardy. Everything around them is destroyed as they fight with everything they have. We eventually see that Battle Beast is the loser of the battle, with the fight being so close that Thragg almost succumbed to his injuries, and the next time we see him, he's wearing Battle Beast's hide as a cape. Due to Battle Beast pushing Thragg as far as he did, Thragg was more than likely able to gain a huge power boost from this event, making him more powerful than he already was. 5 years pass in the story, and Thragg is on standby developing his new Viltrumite army. As of now, they're adolescents and they're quite powerful as they are as children, so they begin to make their move. Thragg himself doesn't make a move until he locates Mark and storms his home alongside his two children, Onan and Ursal. As his two children keep Mark and Eve busy, Thragg is able to get his hands on Mark's child in order to eliminate her. This is when an adult Oliver comes in to save her, only for Thragg to take his life with one attack and brush him aside as if he were nothing. Soon after Mark and Eve catch up to Thragg,
and for those that do not know, this is spoilers. Like, this is spoilers for those who if you don't read the manga, this is spoilers. Or comics, this is spoilers. So yes, Oliver does die to Thragg. He does, which I'm gonna hate seeing it in live action because I really like Oliver, to be honest. And this is what I mean when I talk about like the characters in Invincible. Like, they really grow on you, and they do a great job on focusing on every character.
Thragg manages to defeat Mark quite easily and end their battle by ripping him in half, leaving him and calling it a day. This moment sets up the final battle between Mark and Thragg, as at this point, Mark understands that Thragg can no longer be left unchecked, and peace is not an option. The final battle starts as Nolan declares Thragg to be his target in the war, but this battle comes to an end extremely fast as even Nolan cannot hurt Thragg anymore. Thragg has become so powerful that the fist of the all-powerful Omni-Man shatters upon hitting Thragg's head. Mark tries to jump in this fight to help his father, but Thragg simply swipes him away and says,
and this is where, when you think about it, the Viltrumites are kind of like Super Saiyans, or well, Saiyans, because they're able to take a huge amount of damage and then get a Zenkai boost from it and get even stronger. So after Thragg's fight with Battle Beast, he's damn near on another level.
Says that he'll be dealing with him soon after. Thragg goes in to charge Nolan, but Nolan retaliates with a headbutt to Thragg's face, breaking his nose. This causes Thragg to get sick and tired of fighting him, so he impales him and then rips him in half. Mark, seeing this, becomes enraged and takes over the fight, and Nolan has become incapacitated. As Mark's frustration is only growing and he witnesses Thragg take his own children and throw them at Mark, he claims that he will not allow Thragg to sacrifice his children anymore, so he grabs him and plummets the both of them toward the sun. This is the final stage of their battle. The two begin to fight in a star, as Mark gives it his all to keep Thragg in the battlefield and sacrifice himself for everyone's sake. As Mark was about to give out, He'd be supplied with armor from Robot to continue fighting Thragg in the sun. And this, plus the fact that Eve gave Mark a boost in strength before the battle, is what would allow Mark to keep Thragg here long enough for him to perish, not before Mark would also pass out himself, although he'd be saved by Alan at the very end of it all. This ending Thragg's story and displaying how much of a menace he truly was to our heroes. Thragg is not the final villain of Invincible, but he might as well have been. He was a dominating force, a villain that controls the narrative, and a one-of-a-kind antagonist that's rarely seen nowadays. When it comes down to it, Thragg is certainly one of the most powerful characters in the series. But there are two with a clear and easy case of
Yeah, Thragg is OP, and seeing this in the new season is actually going to be really, really good. And I can't wait, man. Okay, we're finally going to get to see the reunion of Omni-Man and Mark. And we're going to see Alan the Alien. We're going to see Battle of the Beast versus Thragg. So it's going to be really good, man. Especially Battle Beast. I like Battle Beast. Battle Beast is a really good character. But yeah, man, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys jump in the comments. How do you guys feel about Thragg? Are you excited for the new season of Invincible? I always respond to the comments whenever I see you guys drop something down there.